Welcome back to Asa Camps. Today we have another great opportunity for you to get to know what's going on with this vehicle right here. This is the 2022 Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, and it happened to be debuted in the United States a little bit early last night for me. We're in Italy, you know, we have the time. We're ahead of the time from you guys in the United States. But so I happened to come across this article early in the morning for me, which happens to be late at night for you guys, and somebody who loves Jeep, who loves the off-roading, who knows a lot about the brand, is here with me like every other week or every week. And this guy is Mike Hayworth.
Hey, what's up, Oz?
How's
it going?
What's up, Mike, man? This week it's been better than last week. It's about to be
was
over.
It was. You're right. And we are on Friday Eve tonight. This is our Thursday, whatever you want to call it. It's still been a long week, but it is better than last week. I will say that.
Yes, sir. A lot lighter, a lot better. I don't know if it was because last week was so heavy that this week's is a lot better. It's like there's no way but going up. There's no way to mess it up.
Anytime we sit around and talk about cars, it's a good time. So that always helps the week.
Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and start talking about the 2022 Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer that happened to come and catch everybody by surprise, especially me, because I read about the pre-production vehicles that were out there, and then they dropped the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, making me think that they're just going to go away from the Wagoneer and they're just going to use this Jeep Grand Cherokee Grand L instead the Wagoneer. But then all of a sudden they said, well, here it goes. Here it is, the Jeep Wagoneer.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to think here. I mean, the Cherokee's been a great seller for Jeep, no doubt. I mean, that's as much as I love the Wrangler, the Cherokee has outsold the Wrangler a lot. It's a great vehicle for them. Then when I was with you, they dropped the L, and I thought, okay, that may kill off at least the Wagoneer, if not both that and the Grand Wagoneer. But here Jeep went in and did the unthinkable, and they went ahead and now they've basically got 3 brand new SUVs in their lineup, all 3 situating above the Grand Cherokee.
Yeah,
risky move.
Well, and this is not the first time that Jeep comes with some kind of stunt like this. We have seen this before from the past, and if they have not learned the lesson, maybe they will this time, because they dropped this thing right here, the Jeep Commander. Mind this, guys. Hold right there. The Jeep Commander was a mid-size towards full-size SUV, but nobody adopted it. It was kind of like a failure for Jeep, just like the Liberty. It was very much like the Liberty. And the Wagoneer, you can find them today for like less than $500. That's a shame for a company, especially like Jeep.
I agree. The Commander, in theory, was a good idea that I think was a little bit ahead of its time. It was a little bit bigger than the things that were on the market at that time. Mm-hmm. And it had the typical Jeep issues.
Yeah.
It's it's unfortunate, but that's part of the Jeep brand and the whole family. I mean, they have some reliability issues, and the Commander had more than its fair share, and it got horrible gas mileage, and there just was a lot of things against it. I was sad to see it go. I thought it had some potential if they had stuck with it and had made some changes, but it just sold so horribly that they needed to cut ties. And I'm worried that they're heading down the same road with 3 essentially, if we're including the Grand Cherokee L, 3 brand new SUVs into a very crowded market. And we'll talk about some of why I think that in a minute, but risky move.
You know what I think about this? They have been pretty successful with the Cherokees and Grand Cherokees for the longest time, right? And the Wrangler especially. I think the Wrangler for the Jeep brand is the halo vehicle. Everybody wants to have a Wrangler. They look for it. That's why people buy the Compass, because it's like a Wrangler, but for the masses. Then they bought the Patriot. When the Patriot came out, they bought the Commander. They bought the Jeep Grand Cherokee. But the Grand Cherokee has separated the Wrangler from its own,
Yes.
because they have their own market. That's like kind of like the luxurious off-roader back in the 90s. Then in the 2000s, they moved the level a little bit higher, and they go to the next level. And every year, I think that Jeep Grand Cherokee has always been one of the best looking SUVs out there. Not the most reliable. I remember the early 2000s, it was garbage. Period.
Yes.
That square looking, going towards the more rounded Jeep Grand Cherokee. I had a bunch of friends who had a bunch of transmission issues, and it was unreliable as it can be, overheating problems with the engine and so on. But then they improved it, and they have some weird relationship with Toyota back then, where they have a co-development of the Ford Runner and the Jeep Grand Cherokee at the same time simultaneously, but it was never public. It was very, very uncommon to hear about that. So once they move from the Grand Cherokee to this market, I think that this is a very risky stunt, since they already taste failure with the Commander. The Commander, to me, is the closest of the two to the original Wagoneer from the 80s.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Like the design. This is just the name to bring the nostalgia from that 80s Wagoneer that most of the people your age and my age, parents used to own. Maybe, perhaps, but it is not a Wagoneer. To me, it is just what the article said, that it should have been a Ram product, but they just name it Jeep because they need to have another vehicle with Jeep. So
I understand what Jeep is trying to do from a sales standpoint. You look at what a manufacturer is trying to do, and they want, ideally, in a perfect world, they want to get that kid right out of college or in their first job and get them into their entry-level vehicle and keep them in their vehicles for their entire driving lifetime.
Yep.
And so Jeep kind of topped out with the Grand Cherokee, which is a nice vehicle. I have no issues with the Grand Cherokee. I think it's a good vehicle. I think there's a lot of pluses to that car. But and when I say they, I'm thinking Jeep is thinking that they were missing that top end of that market. They had no place to go for people that were, say, your guy that's just got his 20th year with his company and he's making good money, and he wants to pull a boat, and he's got a big RV and his family's growing. He's grown out of the Grand Cherokee. He's grown out of Jeep. And so Jeep wanted something to kind of take that next step for their buyers. And I understand that. I think the Wagoneer, I don't have much problem with. I still don't think it's going to be a great seller for them because they're competing in a very full market. You've got a great following for your Tahoes, your Denalis, there's a lot in that market already that they have to compete with. My bigger issue is the Grand Wagoneer.
Okay.
I just do not understand how they came to the idea that a vehicle for Jeep that starts at almost $90,000
for a Jeep.
Let's think about it. The people that shop that price range. You're talking your Lexuses, and even then,
the
LXs. You're almost out of the Lexus. Yeah, you're almost out of the LX range.
Yeah.
So you're talking your
Escalade
X7s. You're talking your Range Rovers. You're talking your GLSs from Mercedes-Benz. You're talking some big, heavy vehicles. Your Tesla.
The Tahoes, the Yukons, the Denalis, all those kind of vehicles, and they're in the 90 grand and above.
Yeah.
But think about this. Think about this, and this is how I see it. Right? We have a marathon, right? And you got the Yukon, you got the Denalis, right? Yukon Denalis, you got the Tahoes, you got the Escalade, you got the Land Cruisers, you got the LX from Lexus, you got the X7 is just a new competitor, so we cannot count that one right there. But and the Mercedes, right? The GLs, GLs. Which are big. All these guys, but the Jeep had vehicles already in a marathon. They started in the 90s. They started in the 2000s, early 2000s, and they've been running this marathon all this time. Jeep with the Commander, actually with the Wagoneer in the 80s, right? Jeep was one of the first ones, but we can argue that because the Suburban has been in existence
I was going to say that the Suburban's been around for a long time, but but the Wagoneer was one of the first what we would consider an SUV. Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked that. So let's see that all these guys are competitors and they start the whole marathon, right? Jeep disappear in the middle of the marathon, and they took off. Nobody knows where Jeep is at, and everybody keeps on running. They have their failures, they have their sore, their feet are sore, their backs are sore, but they have their success and they are like advancing, right? Here is the 2000s, and Jeep comes with the Commander out of nowhere. It's like the guy comes out of a curve, and then he's with the bunch again, right? And then it disappears one more time. And these guys keep on going, and the marathon is almost to the end when here comes Jeep with the Wagoneer almost at the finish line with the Wagoneer. And you are like, what in the world? Like, what's going on with these guys? These guys are weird. And this is what my concern is. All of these guys have been like tested for years. Suburban, Tahoe, Yukon, you name it. Body on frame vehicles that have been successful in the American market for the longest times. And we're talking just for the American market because we don't know what other markets have this kind of vehicles. I know that Korea, South Korea, some of these vehicles are taken there, but they're not produced there and they're not sold in masses there. Yes. Nor China, nor
it's
Europe.
It's a much more niche market.
Yeah, it's a very niche market, especially for the United States, Canada, maybe Mexico, Puerto Rico, and all those places like that, Hawaii. But you don't see this kind of vehicles in Europe. And you will not see them often unless you see a service member in Europe or maybe what's it called? A diplomatic person in Europe, right? From the U.S. So you have Escalade, top of the line. To me, if I go from top to bottom, I go with the Escalade. I will go with the Denalis. I will go with the Lexus LX, which is not right there because it's not as big as these other guys, but it's there.
But it's in the price range. That's still in the same family.
Right. I will go maybe with the X7, which happened to come into the game like probably 2-3 years ago. Then we got the Mercedes. And then down in the bottom line, I will put the Wagoneer because it's not proven. It has a history of failure with Jeep in many areas. Not saying that the Wagoneer is going to fail, but history has not giving a good sample from Jeep.
No, and that's my concern. I love Jeep products. I love the Wrangler, my Wrangler. I absolutely loved that vehicle for probably one of my top 2 favorite vehicles I've ever owned. But like my Italian cars that I love, it had reliability issues.
Yeah.
I think I went through probably 4 wheel sensors. I had 5 different fan motors that went out. I had a window regulator that would work and not work. And I mean, this was all within the first 3 years of ownership. The top leaked. The transmission and the motor, I had no issues with. It's all the electronics. And that's the stuff that those are the same parts that Jeep is pulling out of their parts bin to put in these. Yep, it's got a nice interior. You look at the Grand Wagoneer and the wood and the nice leather, and it's got some cool features. But that fan that's running their HVAC is the same fan that was in my Wrangler that kept crapping out. And the window switches, they're the same window switches. I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend for the Series 3, which is the top of the line Grand Wagoneer, is sitting right around $114,000.
That's more than likely when you're going to see it.
To me, that's just, it's unthinkable. When you're shopping for a car in that price range, you're shopping primarily. Most people that are buying those are buying name brands. They want a status symbol. They want something to show their neighbors, look, I made it. Look at what I'm driving.
Yeah. Showing off.
Jeep just does not come into that equation for me. And yes, Jeep, and I know somebody's gonna call me out on it. Yes, it does not say Jeep on the vehicle. It says Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer. You will not find the name Jeep on those 2 vehicles anywhere. But it's still a Jeep, and everybody knows it's a Jeep.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this is coincidence. Maybe not. 2018, Michigan legalized recreational marijuana. 2019, the Grand Wagoneer concept comes out. Connection? Yeah. I don't know. But I'm telling you, there were some dudes sitting around in Michigan thinking they were in Foreman's Garage from that 70s show. And they're like, dude, let's take a Wagoneer and make it really expensive. And they all thought it was the best idea ever. And this is where we go.
And they will be like, dude, where's my car, dude?
Exactly. It's, you know, there are some impressive things with it. Like they've got a screen.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
In the passenger seat, or in the dash in front of the passenger, called the co-pilot mode.
Yes.
I think that is awesome. I love that as a passenger, that would be great. Now, if I'm driving down the road and somebody's sitting there and they're starting to control the stereo, we're going to have issues.
My hand will be like this.
yeah. But I think that's a pretty cool feature. And I think there are some things that they've done well with this. I think they've continued with some of what the Dodge products and the Mopar products have done since they had the partnership with Mercedes-Benz. And that's when you really saw the more upscale interiors come into these vehicles, even though they are no longer part of that partnership. That kind of mindset and those kind of products have continued to develop. And I think we see some of that in these two vehicles. I just think that they have way, way overshot themselves with that Grand Wagoneer, especially.
Well, I will say this. The screen on the passenger side, that's taken from the playbook of Ferrari. Ferrari has been doing this for a long time. And there's other couple brands that have it. And I think Mercedes-Benz has it now with their magic screen that they have in their electric SUVs.
Yep.
But like you said, if I'm driving down and my daughter is touching on that screen and I'm trying to focus on the driving and jam on something that I really want to listen to, and she dares to touch that screen, I'll be like reaching out while I'm driving, like, stop. There has to be like a blocking mode to that, because she likes to play with the power windows. She goes like up and down, up and down, and I have to block it too. So they probably come with something. I'll figure it out. But it's clever. It's clever. On the luxurious part. Like,
yes.
Let's say this, Ram or FCA, well known as FCA, now as Stellantis. This is the very first product from Jeep from Stellantis.
First Stellantis vehicle, you're right.
So they are trying to come up with a different formula, with a different, presentation. And this could be their letter of presentation, right? However, what we're talking about here is the possibilities of the gremlins on the electronic devices or in an infotainment system. But if you look at this and you have a Wagoneer, a Grand Wagoneer that is $85,000 to $90,000, right? I would not pay for a Jeep that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens in the cabin. If you have called this a Ram or like a Ram wagon or like the super wagon or something like that from Ram, which happens to be like at that price range already. Like you have Rams that sells for $75,000, $80,000, like just like the Ram Rebel and up, like the Ram T-Rex and up. You have the customer, the base of customers already that will be willing to pay that much money for that. I don't know if those customers will be like crossing from Ram to Jeep just to get the cover under bed. Like they don't have a bed anymore. They just want to have a cover trunk and go to Jeep. I think that if they will have named this Ram Super Wagon or Ram something, you name it, come up with your own names, I think they will have a better success. It's still luxurious, still looking good. I will say that the FCA or now Stellantis have always come up with good quality materials in the interior. And the interior has been probably their highlights of most of their vehicles other than their performance and the ramps. Like I can bash FCA and former FCA, now Stellantis, from Ram and Jeep because they're terrible in many ways. But interior, I have always been enamored with the interior of their vehicles. But I'm not willing to pay $80,000 or $100,000 for a Jeep. It's not reasonable.
No, that's why I say I think that I can convince myself that the Wagoneer is not a bad move for them, just because it competes in price range, in size, in just about every category. It's going to compete with your Tahoes.
Yeah.
It's in that same realm. And as much as it kills me to think that a $60,000 or $70,000 vehicle is kind of the norm anymore, I mean, that's kind of where we're at.
More
I
and
still think
more.
the Grand Wagoneer is way over the top. And like you said, put a Chrysler name on it, put a Ram name on it,
Yep.
do something else with it. I still think it's a hard sell. I don't care what Mopar, Stellantis, FCA name you put on that. I still think at $100,000, I still think you don't have the name recognition to be selling in that market, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the reliability issues that they have talked about. I noticed it mentioned several times that they have a grand plan for a special lounge for Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer owners at the dealerships. So when your car does break down and you do have to go to the dealer, you have a nice place to sit, and they have a place to charge your phone, and they have a little concierge service. And it's like one of the things that I really enjoyed, besides the performance aspect, that I enjoyed from my BMW ownership days was I had a service manager that was assigned to me.
Yes.
And part of his job was to know me and know my vehicle. And I would pull up unannounced to get an oil change, and I'm not even out of my car yet, and he would be at the door. Mr. Hayworth, how are you doing?
Yeah.
What can we do for you today? That's what they're trying to bring to this Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer. They're trying to bring some of that, which I applaud. But it's got to be pretty dang spectacular, because you're going to be there a lot, or potentially.
It's going to be a half-baked product. And
Exactly.
and here's the thing. I had a Lexus in South Carolina. Remember the CT200H?
Yes.
And they had the same concept. But the issue was that I never get to go there. And I wanted to go there more often because it was really cool. And Matt will tell me, like, man, it's been a long time since I saw you.
Yeah.
So there
you go. Here's your chance, Oz. Buy a Wagoneer or a Grand Wagoneer, and you too can have those frequent opportunities to see your service manager.
So that's a thing. Another thing is the American customer, like consumer, they are creatures of habit. They like what they like, and they stick with what they like. You can ask an F-150 owner or customer, right, that, oh, the Ram 1500 is better than an F-150. And he say, I don't care. I love Ford. I'm a Ford guy.
Yes,
I'm a Ram guy. I'm a Chevy guy. And that's legendary in the United States. I don't know if there's other country in the world, maybe Germany or maybe Italy too, where, countries that have their own vehicles like Japan, Germany, Italy, France, United States, that they build their own products, like domestically. Mm-hmm. When they marry to this particular brand, it's very difficult to bring them to the next one. It's almost impossible to convince a Ford owner to go to Chevy. That's like a sin.
No, that's unheard of.
That's a sin.
Doesn't happen.
And vice versa. So if you see a guy like that, he's gonna lose his marriage, his job, and his whole social life. That's bottom line in the United States. So even last with Jeep, if you're telling me Bronco to Jeep, Jeep to Bronco, Wrangler, maybe a FJ Cruiser owner from Toyota going to Ram or Wrangler, but a full size SUV. Once you buy a Tahoe or a Yukon Denali, that's what you buy. The next one, you're looking for the next generation. You're not looking for, let's venture what BMW has. No, you don't do that. If you bought the 97 one, then you're going to buy the 2005, then you're going to buy the 2013, then you're going to buy the 2021. That's how it is. This is the kind of customers that buy this kind of vehicle.
I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I do not want to see them fail with this, because that could potentially be catastrophic for the entire lineup. I don't want to see them fail. I have a feeling that they just shot too high, because I agree with you. I think that you very rarely see those people that cross shop outside of their brand. And I think this is even more niche than that even. Yep. Because now you're taking the population of people that purchase that price of a vehicle. Again, I think most of those people are shopping for, they're looking for the bling, and a Jeep just does not provide that name. You pull up at the nice restaurant, and the valet's coming out to park your car, and your business partner is getting out of a X7 M50, and the next guy behind you is in a Mercedes, and there you are in your Jeep. It's
it was like, is that the Grand Cherokee L?
yeah,
No,
exactly.
that's a Wagoneer. And in the United States, that people are allergic to the word wagon. Oh, that's the Wagoneer, the Wagoneer. It would be like,
Well, I will say that I'm glad that the Wagoneer, that they didn't put the fake wood on the side again, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
still
Imagine
and
that.
I think that's forever the image that people have of the Wagoneer. And
just
I
find
don't
it
know
here.
that this really does much to take that image out of their head.
And that was the attempt that they tried with the Jeep. I have one right here in front of the screen, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer 1, Series 1. And I will say this. If this vehicle was coming to compete with the Bronco as a Bronco competitor, like slightly above the Wrangler, I give it to you, Jeep, like $50,000 to $60,000, like above the Rubicon. Like put it above, slightly above the Rubicon, not with the V8 Hemi or all that nonsense that Jeep is coming with that Wrangler that is gonna be like souped up. But like just put it to compete with the Bronco. Like make it like this one right here, like the one on the screen, and then you will have a product that is gonna be kind of like competitive, but it's not gonna be competitive. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's gonna flop because I might be wrong all the way, but it doesn't reek luxurious.
Yeah,
like you're right. If I'm in Miami, going to South Beach to the Clevelander Hotel, most of the people are gonna pull up on Lambos, Lexus, BMWs, Mercedes high-end Mercedes, etc. Bentayga. This cannot stand next to a Bentayga.
No.
Or anything like that. Even though it might be their aspirations, and we have to give it to them that they're trying to aspire to be a super luxury brand, but it's not. This should have been named Ram. Period. Ram.
If they had taken the money, the R&D money that they put into that Grand Wagoneer, again, I'm going to ignore the Wagoneer for a minute because I can justify to myself that that's not necessarily a horrible business move on their part. The Grand Wagoneer, I think if they had taken all of that R&D that they put into all of the extra tech, all of the extra materials for the interior, if they had made a super luxurious Wrangler, I think that would have sold 10 times better than this Grand Wagoneer would. Because most people that buy a Wrangler, it never sees dirt. It's a mall getter. It's a grocery getter. And if you look at the mods that a lot of people do, they add luxury to a Wrangler. So I think there's a market for that in some sense. And that's just as silly to me as the Grand Wrangler or the Grand Wrangler, the Grand Wagoneer. But really, I think if they had put that money into something else in their current lineup, to enhance that rather than this vehicle, I think that would have been money better spent. But I don't know. I just hope they don't lose their shirt on this.
All right. So we have been talking for around 29 minutes on this time, Mike, and we have to come up with the question of the day because to me and to you, I think that we have clearly our point right now. Do you have a question of the day? You want me to drop one? You tell me. You tell me.
Go for it. You put me on the spot, Oz.
Do you think that I planned the question of the day? The question of the day is like this. The question of the day is, if you are in this price range, a consumer in this price range, would you go for a brand new product like the Jeep Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer and between the $80,000 to the $90,000, or you will go for the establishment, the Escalades, the Denalis?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind.
Would you do that?
No, I'm not touching either of these vehicles at that price range.
We're shelling some chelitos right there, like it's telling like 90 plus chelitos. You're about to. I want Escalade, man. Get me Escalade. Get me an Escalade right now. That's what I'm talking about.
There's a lot of things I think I would look at before I would look at either one of these.
All right, so with all that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. So don't forget to subscribe to us. Can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Check me out on Instagram and follow Mike on Instagram on Mike's Hayworth Photography. once this lockdown is over, we guys are gonna have beautiful pictures in that Instagram.
I can't wait.
You know, you can buy whatever you like in Mike Hayworth Photography in Instagram. And don't forget to leave your comments down below because we want to read what you guys think about this. And whether it's positive, negative, whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us, leave it in the comments down below. Give us our cross-examination. Let's do this. Let's make this a debate. Let's do that. All right? I dare you to do it, all right? All right, Mike, I'll see you guys soon, and stay tuned to us at Camps or next week for more podcasts, all right? See you later, Mike.
Have a good week.
Done.